today we are diving into a topic that is quite top of mind and I think quite topical for a lot of Australian small businesses and medium businesses, which is kind of scaling tech capabilities whilst also managing costs internally depending on their size and what they're looking to outsource. So we're joined by Richard, the founder and CEO of Flexisource IT. Welcome. It's very good to have you on the podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
And so you've built a business that really provides Australian companies with access to that top tier tech talent. And we'll dive into some of the other talent that you have access to overseas as well. But you also have a really interesting background in finance that we would love to dive into a little bit in the show as well. Maybe first and foremost, we can dive a little bit into your background. Obviously, quite an extensive career in finance, spanning the US and kind of other global markets. And then it's kind of led you into Flexisource IT and where you are today. But could you talk us a little bit through that background and what kind of led you to where you are?
Sure. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. So I'm from New York. I was born in Brooklyn, grew up in New York, ended up working actually after doing a number of jobs after university. I actually, through a friend, I joined a training program towards Wall Street. So I did the whole Wall Street training. Then we're talking about early 90s, 91 around there, and became a licensed broker, worked Wall Street, did that for a number of years. I ended up having a client who was based out of Paris. So it was running a hedge fund out of Europe, and we were doing really well. Had a great rapport, and he actually, after a number of years working together, invited me and asked me if I was interested in joining on the buy side and moving to Asia. At that point, we were really he was really focused on what they called the tiger economies of Asia, which was mostly Hong Kong, Singapore, but some of the other countries. And it was really about investing into the share markets in those countries. So my travel took me over to Hong Kong, probably about 6 months before they had the Asia financial crisis, which was probably poor timing. Yeah. But eventually I ended up going back to Hong Kong, then went to Singapore, spent a year in Geneva, Switzerland as well, just covering global equity markets for a European hedge fund. So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah. And then obviously you've come to Australia as well.
Yeah. So during my time when I went to, during my time in New York, when I was working there, I actually had a girlfriend who was Australian. And when I moved to Hong Kong, after the markets crashed in Hong Kong, I came to Australia. I spent about a year in Australia, and really just trying to figure out what my next step was. And I fell in love with Australia. I just loved it, and the food, the culture, the outdoor life. For me, it was different, obviously different, there's nothing like New York, but if you've lived there your whole life, it was pretty amazing, I thought, being here in Australia. And that's what led me coming back. So eventually married an Australian and have been living here for the better part of the last 30 years.
So I guess to dive into Flexisource a little bit more, what does Flexisource do and what kind of problems does it solve for Aussie businesses? Sure.
So look, I've always been involved, particularly when I was in finance, was involved in IT, and one of the areas that I've always saw, particularly here in Australia, is the issues with obviously high cost of labor, shortage of labor oftentimes, and quite honestly, outsourcing was a struggle for a lot of companies. I found most CFOs or CEOs that I spoke to in big companies just told me about all the poor performance, poor results they've had out of it. And I always thought, why would you want to take something as important as your tech, which nowadays every company is tech. It doesn't matter what they do. If you're a supermarket or retail or whatever it is, tech is one of your biggest costs. Why would you send it off to someone else to tell you how to operate it? And there was also a lot of changes, I think, in the way people were developing. Agile development was a big phrase everyone was using, and the way you go about developing was a new process that I think made it easier for remote people to do it. So really what we've done is created a model which is much more of an augmentation model, if you will, which is dedicated remote staff, but much more all focused on tech, but really focused on working with Australians and providing a technical project management team that actually helps overcome a lot of the typical problems that do come from offshoring or outsourcing.
Cool. To take a step back, how did the idea come up, and run us through that journey from start to today?
Well, that's a bit of a painful story, to be honest. But look, the Philippines came up because when I was in Asia, I had traveled to the Philippines. And look, I knew of the Philippines because for over 100 years, it was really like a U.S. colony almost. The U.S. had their military bases there. So I knew they all spoke English, and actually all businesses conducted in English. So it made it very easy to travel there. And I knew that they were really growing, particularly for outsourcing for call center people. I think they're now even bigger than India in the world. So when I went to the Philippines, I actually had somebody I knew, a friend from New York, who actually had some people working in the Philippines doing tech to New York. And we ended up working together to begin starting this process. This was right after the global financial crisis. So I was looking to kind of make a career pivot and really looking for something a bit more meaningful, something that, I felt finance was great. I had some great times, but it didn't provide me anything tangible in terms of meaning in my life. And when I got to the Philippines, I met some amazing people. And I started this business in partnership with this friend of mine from New York. And that's how we kicked it off. Unfortunately, partnerships are a tricky thing, particularly if your business partner is dipping into the till. So I basically had to restructure the company after building up for about 2 years and really working with some great clients. And really, so for me, I was kind of sold on the concept. I had, I guess, 2 years experience working with great companies in Australia, well-known brands, and spending multiple trips to the Philippines, and really loved the people and felt that it was, a really valued idea. And it's been really the last 10 years has been taking that and growing it and making it better.
I'd love to kind of chat through the full spectrum of roles that you have on offer.
Yeah, so web development, I guess you think is like, most people think, building websites, and we've got people who do that, but I guess ours are more hardcore engineers. So most of the clients that we work with are building product, SaaS and enterprise software. And as I might have mentioned earlier, every company now has a huge IT team. It's their business is IT. Whatever they're selling or whatever their product is, it's a foundation of it, particularly now with things like cloud. So some of the resources that we'll have, the beauty is the Philippines has great education and a really good diverse skill set. So, without, I guess, throwing different coding languages out, but it's sort of the coding languages that are the most current ones today. Things like Node, Python, which really is one of the big leaders in AI technology. So things like SQL and Python, those are some of the big coding things, but things like DevOps or people who are involved in your, QA is a big one. Testing is a really big thing that people overlook, particularly in the development space, because they're on a speed to market. So they don't build that foundation of testing, and in the long run, it'll save you money. So things like that. Designers is a big one. And we also have a full digital marketing team as well that we've kind of built of about 15 people that works with our existing clients as well as a sort of on-demand resource to help them out. So yeah, it's pretty diverse, but it's mostly in that high-end tech space.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. And the marketing team that you touched on as well, is that something that you found it was conversations and like feedback that you were getting from your existing clients that they were like, do you know anyone in this space? And is that why you built it out, or more of a complementary sort of service?
Yeah, it was much more complementary. I just actually found I didn't know marketing. I was really poor at it and failed for many years. And through a friend who was a marketing manager at a big listed gaming company, he helped me out. He interviewed people for me, and he pointed out, he said, introduced me to one of the guys that I interviewed, Bernard, said he's a gun, and he's been with me now for over 5 years. So he's really built up our marketing and our brand, and we've done a lot of branding. And then I found that a lot of the clients that I had, the biggest expense obviously is IT and marketing, getting their brand out. So it was sort of complementary. So a lot of, particularly the startups and SMEs, we were able to offer it as an on-demand service because most of these companies may only have one person in marketing. And these days, running marketing is not a one-man or woman operation. It really needs a wide variety of skill sets. So it sort of became a complementary feature to help help these companies grow. Because that's really what we want to do as a partner, not just help them develop their product, but certainly help them get the word out there and help. The more they grow, the more we grow. So it's a complementary process.
Sort of service that you're putting together.
For sure. For sure.
I saw on the website there's also support services as well.
Yeah, so mostly it's in the tech support service. Okay. So we really focus on that. Look, a lot of my clients, we support them in everything, including accounting, which you have. We've got a few people who've got accounting or compliance or, various other admin roles. And we're happy to help them out with those roles. We find I don't want to say cookie cutter, but they're a lot easier to fill in those roles, to find those people. A lot of the roles that we're looking for mostly are high-end tech people, so we really have to, tech them out ourselves. Before we endorse them to any clients, we have our tech leads, really interview them and question, make sure that they're the skilled, have that skill set. We're in a lot of times people who are accountants or in admin, you could ask them a handful of basic questions and understand their competency.
I couldn't agree more. That interview process for us, especially, I'm sure the development side is much more technical, but it's really important to make sure that one, character fit, and two, that they can actually do the work as well.
And then 3, it's the attitude as well. And that I think is the biggest thing. And particularly in some of the roles, like you mentioned, the support roles, I'd say the support roles attitude is much more important than the skill sets off of it. Even in some of the tech support, we've had people who are those level 1 tech support people. And I think it's people who take the time, their spare time to actually improve their craft. Those people are the ones that you want to keep. And, they're the ones who our clients want to keep. And that's what we try to do, is not only find the right people for them, but build sort of that long-term partnership where those people can grow their careers and, stay with the client for a long time. And, most of our staff have been with the clients for years.
Would you say that's one of the benefits of using a business like yourself as opposed to going direct to market, where there is that screening and the process that you guys would have to make sure that all the candidates are top quality?
Yeah, so definitely the screening. I mean, we've got a recruitment team of 6 people, and they're all tech. So the recruitment team are really awesome. But beyond that, we also have our tech leads, depending on the skill set. They do a lot of the screening as well, so that we make sure before any clients, the clients interview, they could tech them, they could give them exams and whatnot. But before they ever see them, one of the things, the biggest compliments that our team always gets is that every candidate that we provide, or most every candidate, is really suitable for the role. So we understand what the roles are, we understand what they'll be doing on a day-to-day basis, and we understand really, try to put people that have a good fit for them culturally as well. Because we want them to be not only a fit for our culture in Flexisource, but we also very much want them to be part of the client's culture. And we need to sometimes help the client to share that as well.
How can people work with you? Is it typically, is it a project-based model? Is it an ongoing model? Earlier you said month to month. What's the sort of arrangement that people could get involved with?
Yeah, look, it's long-term, because the reality is if you're building a product particularly, the idea is that life cycle of that product is not going to end.
Ideally.
Ideally. And generally, if you do build that product, there's still a sense of maintenance that always has to occur, or new features that you want to add later on. So it tends to be more ongoing. The way we structure it, though, is we try to take a lot of that fear and that risk out. So there's really no upfront costs. It's a conversation to understand the business, what you're trying to achieve, a conversation with our recruitment team to really understand the right people that you're looking for, along with our project managers to understand our BA to understand your business on a holistic view, what you're trying to achieve. We don't do any billing until we've actually hired the right person for you, and actually once they've started, so we bill you afterward. In the Philippines, they are probationary for the first 6 months, so we focus on full-time employees. The reason being, they'll be more loyal. They get we give them really great benefits. So we're one of the areas that's been useful in us retaining talent is providing them really strong healthcare benefits. And then after 6 months, they started accruing other government benefits, such as what they call a 13th month, which is like a Christmas bonus, if you will, but it's a mandatory process. So most of it is long-term. It's billing on a month-for-month. We do oftentimes, through our digital marketing team, we could help people on an ad hoc basis, hourly or project base. We also have a handful of juniors. We're building internal products as well. We do that as well. Just it's a training ground rather than juniors and interns learning based on YouTube or Udemy. They're actually working on an actual product. And so we build products that are useful for us rather than buying off the shelf products. And, those people, once they sort of graduate that as juniors, we often utilize them for some of the projects that we do, smaller projects, with the oversight of our tech lead or our project manager who does code review and makes sure they're really, hitting the mark. So it's both approaches, but obviously we want to build long-term clients and really make a difference in your business.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
As someone who's I've both gone directly to market and then use a business very similar to yours, I could not recommend to any of our listeners, I'd strongly recommend to use a business like yourself, because going direct to market, there's a whole abundance of issues that can arise. In just my own experience, where are they actually working? Is their internet good enough? Do they have the right equipment? Are they working for other people at the same time? It's things that I've seen happen. And there's also that security piece as well, especially when they're working on their back-end tech and data and all of the, all the stuff that I'm not going to say take for granted, but all the stuff that we just expect to happen when we're here in person. Businesses like yours are, in my opinion, are non-negotiable. So I couldn't recommend it enough as someone who does use outsourcing.
I think that's probably also a really good point that you raise, is the security issue. Is huge. Everyone's always worried about, stealing code. And to be honest, I've never heard that out of the Philippines, things of that nature. But I mean, the idea is that all of the IP is the client's IP.
Yes.
We purchase brand new computers, equipment for all of our staff members. So they start off with, and then we have our security team do security encryption. Oftentimes it might even be a direct VPN line to the client. So the client has all access to turn on and off. That security part where if you get like a freelancer as well, and then, how do you know that your job is their priority?
Correct.
Same through Inflection, but also through other organizations. We've used, again, similar businesses like yourself, but we've also gone direct to market. And the contrast in the quality of output, the retention, but then also having essentially a team, and we had a team manager over there, and they all came into the office when they could, depending on weather and those kinds of things, but would come into the office and they were part of the team. And when we did Christmas parties, there was Christmas parties, and it was just the relationship. You actually got to know them. It wasn't just an external team which can still happen here as well. If you have someone remote, it's sometimes that connection can be hard to develop.
Sure.
But I think it's such an important part of, getting the right work done for clients, but also having a team that you trust, having a team that's a part of your team that you're welcoming into the organization. as just as much, I think is super important as well.
Yeah, for sure. And the face-to-face of, we encourage all of our clients to come out to the Philippines. We'll look after you.
Yes.
We've got clients who were just there last week.
Yeah.
We've got ones coming next month. And also bringing some of those staff onshore. Clients bring them on for their Christmas party. We help facilitate all of their visas and all of that. And that's, and I personally have taken many of them out for dinner or down Great Ocean Road for a travel or whatnot, just to see some of the things. It's a great thing to share with, with your team members and bond off of it. So it's awesome.